Security footage is one of the most important tools that investigators use when dealing with a difficult case. It's more reliable than some witnesses and gives them a definite timeline of events that took place. But in some cases, not even CCTV footage is enough to identify a culprit, leaving the case to turn cold for years to come. Number 10. The police in Coventry, England have released CCTV footage showing the last known whereabouts of 35-year-old Rianne Coulson, who disappeared on the 21st of May, 2025, and has not been seen or heard from since. Since then, Rianne's mother, twin sister, and brother have made appeals to the public for information about what happened to her, and they're still hopeful that she may be found, but investigators have painted a much bleaker picture. In the footage, Rianne could be seen crossing the street and walking through a parking lot as she made her way to St. Mary's and Benedict Church in Hillfields, Coventry. She enters the building and can be seen leaving again, carrying food in a shopping bag, just as two men walk past the same parking lot. Investigators have asked for these two men to come forward, as they might have vital information pertaining to her case, which has been upgraded to a homicide investigation, following an announcement by the police that they believe Rianne's life was ended. Unfortunately, Rianne didn't have a very stable life at the time of her disappearance, since it's known that she'd resorted to becoming a street worker in the period leading up to her disappearance, and it's been suggested this may have had something to do with her going missing. Her family has become ever more concerned as she failed to contact them on the 17th of June, which is her birthday, and has told the public that she's known to visit Atherstone and Leamington Spa in Warwickshire from time to time. She also didn't contact her son on his birthday in May, which is very out of character. The West Midlands Police have given an update on her case, reporting that two men have been taken into custody, as it's expected that they abducted Rianne that night before ending her life. They also stated that at least one of the men knew Rianne, but they've declined to provide any further details since it is an ongoing investigation. If you or anyone you know has any information on what happened to Rianne, or where she may currently be found, you're asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 0800-555-111. Number 9. 30-year-old David Ibanez is a violinist who lives in London, but originally came from Spain. He relocated there in 2013, and in 2020 graduated from the Royal College of Music with an artist diploma. He then started playing violin for the Hill Quartet after becoming a chamber music fellow with the Royal Academy of Music, during which time he and the group performed at venues such as Wigmore Hall, King's Place, Conway Hall, and Royal Festival Hall. In 2021, he joined the Philharmonia Orchestra, but is also known to play and record contemporary music with the Explore Ensemble. Needless to say that a musician with this much talent prefers to display their skills on the best instruments, which is evidenced by the fact that he plays a Lorenzo Cassini violin, which was made in 1740 in Florence, Italy, and which was on loan to him. But this very instrument is now the subject of a mystery that continues to baffle investigators. It's been valued at more than $200,000, and its current whereabouts are unknown. On the 18th of February, 2025, David had finished his rehearsal sessions for the night when he and a friend decided to stop at the Marcus Cavern, which is situated on Canonbury Street, when the unthinkable happened. He was sitting on a bench in the pub with the violin at his feet, but at some point in the night, he realized it was no longer there. He asked to be shown CCTV footage from inside the pub, and he immediately contacted the police. The footage shows a man entering the establishment while looking at something on his phone. He's wearing a tan-colored coat, a multicolored scarf, a white beanie, and black shoes. He's then seen walking through the pub after removing his coat, and it becomes clear that he's taken the instrument and hidden it underneath. Strangely, after exiting the building, he takes a few moments to look back at the pub while lighting a cigarette, almost as if he's reveling in the fact that he's successfully stolen someone else's property. David has spoken to the media after the incident and stated that from a very young age, he was taught to take exceptionally good care of any instrument that he owned, which made the loss of this violin all the more devastating, especially since it was on loan to him from a businessman named Sebastian Kusha. Inside the case were 3 bows, one of which was tipped with mother of pearl, and a cotton bag that was made by David's grandmother, especially for this specific violin, and they're obviously also missing. He added that as soon as he realized that the violin had been stolen, his world came crashing down around him. He felt as though he'd lost an old friend who'd lived almost 300 years before they ever met. Investigators believe that the thief has no idea of the value of the instrument and have expressed their fears that they may decide to throw it away, believing that it's just a normal store-bought violin. Someone who was in the pub that day reported that they saw someone's hat lying on the floor, and seeing the man exit the pub, they believed it belonged to him. They ran after him to return the hat, and it was only later that they realized he had a violin tucked beneath his coat. David stated that he had placed his hat on top of the violin case, and that it must have fallen to the floor when the thief took the violin from beneath it. The instrument can be recognized by a small heart-shaped cutout on the back of the scroll, which is located at the very top of the violin. Anyone who recognizes the man in the CCTV footage, or who has any further helpful information on this case, can contact Crime Stoppers at 0800-555-111. Number 8. Business owners in the Moira area of Ireland have been asked to check CCTV footage from their premises after 46-year-old Philip Porter disappeared from there on the 5th of December 2024. They've stated that they're growing ever more concerned for his welfare, since he's considered to be at high risk. The last time that Philip was seen was on Lurgan Road at around 2:20 a.m., and CCTV footage of his last known movements has been made available to the public. His family has stated that they've been left devastated by his disappearance, and that they're desperate to find out what happened to him. His sister, Heather Rosbotham, told the media that Philip had been going through a tough time in his life prior to his disappearance, but he never spoke about leaving, and his family feels that it's very uncharacteristic for him to stay out of touch. Hence, they fear that something nefarious may have happened, and that he may have fallen victim to foul play at the hands of someone who he ran into that night. He's described by those who knew him as a warm and loyal man who's friendly with everyone he meets. His sister says that he has a great sense of humor and that he can make something out of anything, and she likened him to a member of the famous TV show The A-Team. At the time, Philip had just undergone surgery, and so he was staying at his parents' house, where he helped out while recovering from the procedure. Since his disappearance, many people have joined in the search for him, and his family has thanked the police service of Northern Ireland for their professionalism during the investigation. Unfortunately, Philip didn't have his cell phone with him when he disappeared, and hence he can't be tracked that way. He also left his wallet at home, and it's believed that he doesn't have any cash on him for food or anywhere to stay. No further progress has been made in the case so far. Hence, locals have been asked to look through footage from their doorbell cameras, dash cams, and security cameras, while taxi operators have also been asked to check footage from their vehicle cameras. Residents have been asked to check their sheds and outbuildings in case he decided to take shelter. If you have any information on Philip's case, you're asked to contact the police by dialing the emergency number 101 and quoting reference number 43805/12/24. Number 7. 62-year-old John Edwards has been described by investigators and his family as vulnerable following his disappearance on the 11th of June 2025, and they're urgently looking to locate him so that he can be reunited with his family. Fears for John's well-being have steadily increased since he vanished from the St. Joseph's Villa retirement home in Dundas, Ontario that day, since he's known to have cognitive impairments that are similar to the symptoms experienced by dementia sufferers. The last time that he was seen, John was walking in the area of Millgrove Side Road, and in CCTV footage that's since been released by the police, he could be seen walking in a southerly direction from Highway 6. Further footage shows him then walking west after turning onto Concession 5 West, and it's believed that he then headed towards Kerry Road, which he would have reached within a few minutes of last being seen in the footage. A witness came forward to report that they saw someone fitting John's description walking along the pipeline between Bennett Boulevard and Thompson Road South in Milton on either the 20th or 21st of June, but it's not been confirmed whether this was John or not. The resulting search effort has seen police walking through neighborhoods in the area, knocking on doors and asking whether any of the residents have seen anything that might help move their investigation forward. But to date, no one has provided any further clues. With no further leads to work with, the police have asked that anyone with footage of John during these times contact them so that it can be analyzed. It may prove useful in determining the direction that he traveled in before going missing, or identify further witnesses that he may have interacted with or passed by. They've been left baffled as they found no reasonable pattern to his movements, and hence they're concerned he may have suffered from a medical emergency that caused him to become disoriented and lost, unable to find his way back home. To make matters worse, John is known to not have a cell phone with him, and also doesn't have his ID or money, which means he can't be tracked digitally, and he may be struggling to get by since he's unable to pay for food or accommodation. One positive aspect of this case is that investigators have found no reason to suspect that John has been harmed, or that he's fallen prey to foul play. But at the time of his disappearance, the area had been experiencing an intense heat wave, and without proper shelter, he would have been at the mercy of the elements. He's known to walk with a slight shuffle, which may help with him being identified. And anyone who knows where John is, or who has any leads about his whereabouts, is urged to contact the Hamilton Police Service Missing Person Unit at 905-540-8549. Number 6. In May of 2025, the Atlanta Police Department shared an update regarding their investigation into a case that occurred in December of 2021, when 46-year-old Stanley Pratt and 41-year-old Centia Fields lost their lives at the hands of a man who's yet to be identified. What is known, though, is that at around 7 a.m. on the 18th of December that year, the man broke into the couple's home in Peoplestown community in Atlanta. One of their children managed to call 911, and when the police arrived, they found that Stanley had already passed away and that Centia was badly injured. She was rushed to a nearby hospital, but sadly she passed away soon after. Harrowing footage from inside the couple's home shows Stanley running into the couple's bedroom before a man dressed in all-black clothing runs in after him, and then shots ring out. He then flees, but his face is never visible to the camera. It was immediately suspected that the attacker knew Stanley and Centia, since he seemed to know that Stanley went outside to smoke a cigarette every morning. He lay in wait outside until Stanley opened the door and then put his plan into action. It's believed that he spent about 2 hours waiting outside, and hence it was assumed that this was a planned and targeted attack. No motive has ever been established, and the man's identity remains unknown. Furthermore, upon reviewing the footage, it became clear that the man knew exactly where the bedroom was situated, and so it's likely that he'd been inside the house before. Investigators have, however, added that the attack on Centia was likely not part of the plan, and that she just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Centeria's sister, Alanda Pritchett, told the media that her sister always felt safe in the apartment, since it's situated in a gated community, but this man somehow managed to enter the complex and conceal himself, aided by his black clothing. Appeals were made for members of the public to come forward with information, but since the man's face remains hidden in the footage, no one recognized him, and before long, the case went cold. As far as the couple's friends and family know, they had no enemies, and they cannot think of a reason why someone would want to end their lives. The footage from inside the apartment has been released to the public once again, in case it jogs someone's memory, and if this is the case, progress can finally be made. Their family members have also once again pleaded with anyone in the surrounding community with knowledge of the attacker to report what they know, even if this is done anonymously, so that he can finally be brought to justice. Anyone with information on this case is asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 404-577-8477. A $5,000 reward is being offered to anyone who helps bring the case to a close. Number 5. Disturbing surveillance footage from a Stop and Shop supermarket lot in Shreveport, Louisiana, shows an attack that was carried out against 27-year-old Justin Kemp and a friend who was in his car with him at the time. The incident took place just before 10 a.m. on the 29th of July, 2018, in the 4900 block of Joella Avenue, and the footage has now been released to the public in hopes that someone will come forward with new information that'll lead to the attacker or attackers being identified. In the footage, several people can be seen walking around the supermarket's parking lot. A dark-colored car is parked nearby, and in the foreground, Justin's vehicle is clearly visible. At one point, a man in a yellow shirt is seen talking to someone in the car, but he then leaves and enters the store. A few moments later, Justin's car's back windshield shatters as if someone fired at the car. Everyone in the parking lot can be seen diving to the ground to take cover, and one car that was parked nearby speeds off, the driver leaving their passenger behind, but the man manages to catch up and jump into the vehicle a few seconds later. It's clear that several shots were fired, as several holes are visible in the windshield. Justin's passenger manages to make it out of the car, but Justin remains inside, badly injured. Several people run over to the car, and the police are called. Justin's friend managed to survive the attack, and while Justin was rushed to a hospital where he received treatment, he eventually lost his life due to his injuries 3 months later. While the footage provided investigators with a timeline of events, it failed to show Justin's attackers, and they've yet to be identified. It's believed that he and his friends were waiting in the parking lot as they were about to purchase some illegal items, and hence it's assumed that the attack was somehow related, though this has not been confirmed. The Shreveport Police Department has released a statement in which they revealed that they believe someone in the area knows who carried out the attack. They may be afraid to come forward as they fear that the culprits may come after them as a result, and hence they've chosen to remain silent. Many people can be seen walking around the parking lot before the attack took place, leading investigators to believe that someone must have seen something, but to date, no one has come forward with any additional information in the 7 years that have since passed. Crime Stoppers has announced that they're offering a $2,000 reward for any helpful information. They added that if that reward is not of interest, anyone could submit a tip anonymously by dialing 318-673-7373. Number 4. 18 years have passed since 22-year-old Shannon McCormack lost his life after being assaulted in the Central Business District of Melbourne, Australia, and Homicide Squad detectives have released CCTV footage in hopes that it'll drum up a few new leads. They've also announced that a $1 million reward is on offer to anyone coming forward with information that leads to this attacker being taken into custody, since the case has gone cold without a suspect being named. The incident took place on the 27th of May, 2007, after Shannon and a group of his friends had spent time at the South Bank nightclub. The group decided to leave at around 4 a.m., and after walking about 100 yards, they reached the Queensbridge Hotel. There, they became involved in an altercation with at least 3 men, according to witnesses. And in an effort to break up the fight, Shannon stepped in between one of his friends and a man with whom he was having an argument. The man seemingly took exception to this and swung at Shannon, knocking him down onto the footpath that they were standing on. It's believed that he fell hard and hit his head on the concrete, resulting in a head injury that would eventually claim his life. Staff members from the club heard the altercation happening and rushed over to find Shannon lying on the ground, but by this time the attacker had fled for fear of being arrested. They helped administer first aid, and at first it was believed that Shannon would be alright. A taxi was called to take him to his house in Eltham. Unfortunately, as is so often the case with head injuries, it was far worse than expected, and his condition worsened during the night. His parents rushed him to the Austin hospital, where his injuries were assessed, and it was determined that he would have to undergo surgery. Shannon ended up needing several surgeries, but on the 3rd of June he passed away. During the resulting homicide investigation, investigators received CCTV footage from outside the Austin hotel, showing the man who had attacked Shannon. He can be seen speaking to 2 other men and shaking their hands before walking out of the frame. They've described him as standing around 5 foot 7 inches tall with a thin to medium build. At the time, he wore blonde hair in a spiky style and was wearing either a purple or blue t-shirt and jeans. Investigators are certain that someone who was in the area that night knows the man or saw the altercation take place. Hence, they've appealed to the public to come forward if they have any information that'll lead to Shannon's attacker being tracked down. In the 18 years that have passed since the attack, very few leads have been received, and to date, no one has been able to identify the man in the footage. This has led many people to believe that they may not have been living in the area, since someone who was there that night would surely have recognized him. Shannon's family has also repeatedly appealed for information, but to no avail. If you were in that area that night and witnessed the attack on Shannon and his friends, you're asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-333-000 or submit a tip via the Crime Stoppers website. Callers can remain anonymous should they wish to do so. Number 3. An employee of a Fairry Meadow store in New South Wales, Australia, was lucky to escape with his life when a group of men decided to rob the store, and in the ensuing chaos, he was attacked with a sharpened blade. The case, which is now 5 years old, has since gone cold, and investigators have released CCTV images of the culprits in hopes that someone who knows them will come forward with vital information. The incident occurred just before 7 p.m. on the 20th of September 2020, while the store, which is situated on Cabbage Tree Lane, was still open for business. Police were called to the scene by an employee who stated that a coworker had been badly injured. When they arrived, they found that one of the male staff members was suffering from an injury to his leg after he was attacked with a sharpened blade. He was treated at the scene and then taken to a local hospital where he managed to make a full recovery. During interviews with the remaining staff members, it was revealed that the 3 men entered the store that night, armed with blades. One of the men threatened 2 of the staff members, ordering them not to move unless they wanted to lose their lives. In the meantime, one of the other men approached the male employee and attacked him with his blade, causing the injury to his leg. He then proceeded to gather cigarettes and cash from the register while his victim lay on the ground in agony. Luckily, the 2 other employees were not hurt, and after stealing what they came for, the group fled. According to witnesses at the scene, they ran towards Verrecker Street before disappearing from view. It isn't known which direction they took after that. People who were in the area were questioned, but since the culprits wore masks over their faces, they were never identified, and eventually the case went cold. The CCTV images that have now been released to the public show the 3 robbers in action, and a description of each has been released. The first is believed to be in his late teens. He has a fair complexion and was wearing a black t-shirt, black pants, and black balaclava over his face to hide his identity. The second man is believed to be the same age as the first. He also has a fair complexion and was dressed in a black hooded sweatshirt, black pants with a white stripe, and red balaclava. He was also carrying a black and white backpack. The last suspect's age has not been estimated, but he was wearing a dark and light blue hooded sweatshirt with white stripes and dark-colored pants. It's assumed the man carrying the backpack is the one who carried out the attack, since he was the one who gathered the cigarettes and cash and likely placed these items in his backpack. On the 24th of June 2025, the released images paid off when one of the men, a 23-year-old, was arrested in Wollongong and was charged with robbery, armed with an offensive weapon. At last, some progress was made in the case, but the other 2 robbers are yet to be identified, and hence the police are asking anyone with information to come forward. You're urged to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-333-000 or submit a tip via the Crime Stoppers website if you have any additional information on the case. Number 2. The investigation into the passing of 26-year-old Shu Jean Lim has seen no progress for the last 10 years, and hence the police in Melbourne, Australia have released CCTV footage related to the incident, as they're hopeful that it'll result in new information being received. While an exact date has not been supplied, it's known that in 2015, a group of university students was in the Mount Cottrell area conducting research at a creek when they came across something that left them shocked. The creek is located in a secluded piece of bushland in Melbourne, and at some point, one of the students spotted a wrapped-up plastic sheet that was lying on the ground in Cobbledicksford Reserve. This struck them as strange, and they decided to investigate. Inside the plastic, they discovered the remains of a deceased person, and they immediately contacted the authorities. It was determined that the sheet had been in the creek for some time, and that the man who was found inside was Asian. But since some time had passed since his life was ended, it was impossible to identify him. So DNA was collected and sent to a lab for analysis. By this time, Lim had been reported as missing by his family in Malaysia, and thanks to DNA from one of his relatives, he was identified as the man found in the creek. It was then discovered that he was last seen in Pont Crook, specifically Covent Gardens, on the 20th of February that year. 7 months had passed between that time and the day that he was found. It was also learned that Lim used to spend a lot of time in the company of 4 people, all of whom have been named people of interest in his case. They were tracked down and questioned, but investigators soon realized that their stories didn't make sense when compared to other evidence that had been gathered over the years. Delving into Lim's life, they discovered that he'd been working in Australia for about 5 years while employed as a fruit picker and restaurant worker. At some point, he fell in with the wrong crowd and eventually became involved in the growing distribution of illegal substances. It's believed that he was working for a well-known syndicate that operates in the area, and that his passing likely had something to do with the group, though that theory has never been definitively confirmed. They've also suggested that on the 20th of April that year, Lim left a property in Point Crook in his Toyota sedan, but later that night an Asian man parked Lim's car on Ellen Street in Laverton, after leaving the area in a light-colored small four-wheel drive vehicle that was driven by an accomplice. The Toyota was eventually found, but the license plates had been switched. Nothing of note was found inside, and it was noted that his wallet and phone were nowhere to be seen. These items have never been recovered. In a bid to gather more information, CCTV footage from a water treatment plant near the creek has been released by the police. It shows several vehicles driving past one of the reserve's exits at around 7 p.m. on the day that Lim was last seen. It's been suggested that one of these cars was used to dispose of Lim after his life was ended, and the police have asked that anyone who recognizes any of the cars come forward. They've added that the people responsible for ending his life should be considered armed and dangerous, and should not be approached if they're spotted. An inspector who's working on the case has stated that they're close to solving the mystery, but that any additional information will help speed up the process of finding the people responsible for this heinous crime. Anyone who recognizes the vehicles in the footage, or who believes that they know who's responsible for ending Lim's life, is asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-333-000 so that his family can finally receive some answers. Number 1. On the 1st of August, 2024, 38-year-old Joanna Myion Lawaki, better known to her family and friends as Jo, spent some time on the Omamari Beach in New Zealand with her husband Jared and their children. Later that night, she messaged him to say that she was heading back to their favorite spot on the beach and that she'd be home later. But she never returned, and when Jared woke up the next morning, his heart sank when he saw a message from Jo that simply read, "Help." She'd never sent a message like that before, and he immediately knew that she was in trouble of some kind. He knew that if she was having trouble with her car, or had experienced a similar emergency, she would have explained the situation rather than sending a one-word text. Hence, he knew she only had time to send that one word, and he started to panic. It was later revealed that the message was sent at 1:31 a.m. Jared got dressed and raced to work to inform his manager that he'd not be working that day, since Jo was missing. He then picked up his oldest daughter and headed to the beach, where they looked for Jo, but to no avail. They decided to contact the police, and then started phoning local hospitals in case she'd been admitted, but no one had seen her. While this was being done, investigators scoured the area, and unfortunately came across her body. She was found on an area of beach where the family had never been, and Jared couldn't figure out why she was there. A post-mortem confirmed that Jo's life had been ended by someone, and her case was upgraded to a homicide. Investigators asked that anyone who spotted a Toyota Hilux flat-deck truck with orange hazard lights on the roof and aluminum dog cages on the back contact them with its whereabouts. They added that the truck was likely parked at the entrance to the beach after 7 p.m. on the night that she was attacked, and there's a good chance that someone spotted it that night. While very few details have been released, investigators did state that some of Jo's inquiries could not be explained. Furthermore, they released CCTV footage of a man who's believed to be the last one who saw Jo alive. He's noted as owning 2 pig hunting dogs. Many questions remain unanswered in Jo's case, but the police have stated that they're playing their cards close to their chests, since the attack is still being investigated. They also declined to reveal whether Joe's life was ended on that spot of the beach or if she was moved there after the fact. Jared has been ruled out as a person of interest, and the circumstances leading to Joe's passing remain a mystery. Anyone with information that can help solve her case is asked to dial 105, the non-emergency number in New Zealand, referencing case number 240-803-9062. You can also submit a tip via Crime Stoppers by dialing 0800-555-111. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.